Exactly. So we're dealing with specifically what is generally accepted. So, to recap, okay, the process of the equinoxes moving from one constellation to another, which is an astrological age, is a time period in astrology which is believed by some to parallel major changes in the Earth's inhabitants' development, particularly relating to culture, society, and politics. There are 12 astrological ages corresponding with the 12 zodiacal signs. Approximately every 24 to 25,000 years, the cycle repeats itself, and that's called a great year. Okay? The astrological ages occur because of a phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes.
So how would we define great year? 24 to 25?
22 to 25,000 years.
24 to 25,000 years.
Oh, the 24 to 25?
Yeah.
So what's the average 22?
12 times 2 is 24. If we accept the figure of 2,000 years per astrological age and 12 constellations of the zodiac, then you have 24,000 as a round figure.
24 to 25,000 years.
But it should be noted that we're using 2,000 years and we're using 24, 25,000. I think the most notable figure is 2,150 years.
That's what I thought. It was like
Per,
close to 200.
Per astrological age, 2,150 years, which would give a figure of something like 24,000, whatever.
So wouldn't 22 to 25 be acceptable?
No, 22 would not be acceptable.
At all.
Because it's at least 2,000 years.
So it could, that's another.
So 2,000 times 12 is 24. So it's at least 24,000 years.
So if you say 2150, then that's at least, if you say 2150, that's
Right.
at least 25.
Yeah, well, yeah.
2550, because that's another 1,000
Right.
years.
So, well, again, we don't get into particulars. We say approximately 2,000 years. So, you have the celestial sphere. We talked about the celestial sphere. Everybody clear on what that is?
Yeah.
And what was the next thing we talked about?
We talked about what is an equinox.
What is an equinox? Everybody clear on what is an equinox?
Yeah, and we talked about the autumnal equinox and
The autumnal equinox and the vernal equinox.
vernal.
Everybody clear on what those are?
Yes.
Okay, and
We
what else?
talked about astronomy and astrology, the definitions.
Everybody clear on what astronomy and astrology is?
The apparent view instead of the actual view.
The apparent view. Is everybody clear on what the apparent view is?
Yes.
And, I need the definition, the literal definition for celestial equator.
It is the Earth's equator projected into the sky. Celestial equator is the Earth's equator projected into the sky.
So it's like if you took off your belt and just made it bigger.
Around you.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And now we are running short, so I want to quickly go through the ages as they relate to the development of man. And y'all should take note of, the couple of things that I mentioned about each particular age, because a lot of times, people just really are lost by the time, when it comes to where we are in relation to the development of man, you'd be surprised. So, the first age that we're going to address is the age of Leo, commonly referred to as the Leonian age. Okay? It began around 10,500 BC, the age of Leo. We're in 10,500 BC. It ended around 8,000 BC. Okay? The age of Leo is called the Golden Age. The major event at this time was an ancient chemical global warming, or rather, an ancient global warming. I'm gonna just read straight from the source here. This is Wikipedia.com, by the way. I'm gonna read straight from the source. Okay. The major event at this time was ancient global warming to such a massive extent that it led to the thawing of what now constitutes much of the modern inhabitable world. So, and we got to wrap it up. So the Golden Age, the age of Leo, 10,000 BC to 8000 BC, this was the global warming that cleared up Europe and Asia, North America, most of the habitable Earth. So in the Golden Age, what they call the Golden Age, 10,500 BC to 8,000 BC, is when the Earth melted, the ice caps melted. Okay? So next you have the Age of Cancer. This began around 8,500, 8,100 BC, ended around 5970 BC, 5,970 years before the birth of Christ. Okay? It's called the Age of the Great Mother. While ancient chemical people had mastered civilization many millennia earlier, like during the Age of Leo, Western scholars say that the Age of Leo is when the Sphinx was built, 10,500 years before the birth of Christ. They say that the Sphinx was built in the Age of Leo, but yet, here, from Wikipedia.com, we have that civilization began in the Age of Cancer.
I have a question. When
Yes.
in the Age of Leo did the global warming appear? Was it like
The entire age. The entire Age of Leo.
So it started at the beginning and it lasted the entire age.
Right.
But has
The Earth thawed.
And so all the ice caps melted and covered the world with water, evidently.
The Earth was covered with water before 10,500 BC. Ice and water. And then, well, most of the inhabitable world. We're dealing with a Western source. What they're telling you is that Europe, Caucasia, the Caucasus Mountains, some parts of Arabia, outside of Kim, east of Kim, and west of Kim, all this area was being thawed out.
But Kim was fine.
Wikipedia doesn't tell you Kim was fine. LIU tells you Kim was fine. Kim existed. LIU uses the fact that Wikipedia states that the Sphinx was probably built during the Age of Leo as proof.
Basically meaning if there was no existence of life, how was the Sphinx ever produced in that age?
Not just life, but
It's like
civilization.
contradictory.
Not just life, but civilization. Because this is where their civilization began to form. So they say civilization on Earth, when in actuality, civilization was already here. They just hadn't come into contact with it. You know what I'm saying? So, but for Western literary purposes, because we live in this country, and we would, if we were to go to college and universities, they would probably be Western institutions because they rule the whole educational system. So for the purpose of Western literary studies, the Age of Cancer is considered where civilization began. Okay? By Western standards.
So they're trying to say civilization began 10 years before the birth of Christ?
They're saying civilization began 8,000 years before the birth of Christ.
Oh.
Okay?
But, I mean, okay, go ahead. I'll ask that question. I don't want to hold the question.
Okay. Now the Age of Gemini, which began around 5,970 years before the birth of Christ and ended around 3,814 years before the birth of Christ. The Age of Gemini, 5,000 to 3,000 years BC. It's called the Age of Communication, Trade, and the Twins. During this age, again, ancient Commetans had mastered the art of communication way before the Age of Leo. But in the Age of Gemini, which is when writing is said to develop. Even though we had built the Sphinx,
And there was writing on the Sphinx.
even though there was writing on the walls of the tombs and temples,
Writing as
Western society will tell you that the Age of Gemini is the age in which writing developed.
what type of writing are they talking about?
Now, again, we're dealing with a Western account. So what we suggest that you do is you take this account and you take the claim that we say their civilization is new. Okay? That it's all borrowed. And you look at things like the fact that they admit that the Sphinx was built in 10,000 BC. But then they say civilization started in the next age, the Age of Cancer. Look at that.